The fifth India-Pakistan War 2025. Can we call it that? Or is it a limited Indo-Pakistan conflict? I'm not sure as yet. The main shock to the world, shock to Pakistan, was India's military retaliation on their air bases. 11, in fact, if you include Karachi, 12 Pakistani air bases were struck and pulverized, which included their crown jewels in Sargodha, in Chaklala near Rawalpindi, in Rahim Yar Khan, etc. We smashed these defenses, pinpoint accuracy, 1 meter circular error of probability. The Pakistanis were amazed. The Pakistanis were waxing eloquent, were boasting about how the Chinese were helping them. It was a 1 reinforced front. The Chinese and the Pakistanis were virtually fighting together, though China had put no boots on the ground. The simple fact was that the Chinese Bido network of satellites was helping Pakistan all out. Bido, a network of satellites, and they claimed very triumphantly that they had the electronic signature of every single aircraft. The Chinese had been mapping that since 2022, had given all the data to Pakistan, and Pakistan claimed to have shot out five Rafales out of the skies. Bullshit. Every single Rafale pilot is back home, back safe and sound. Our operational bases are all intact. We have hit them hard. One Pakistani YouTuber lamented that how is it that when the Indian Air Force strikes, all 24 bombs that they launch, all cruise missiles that they launch, Spice cruise missiles and the Hammer bombs, every single one of them hits the target. When Pakistan retaliates, not one of them gets to the target. One odd one here which hits a school in an Air Force compound or a medical facility. That's about all. Right? The Pakistani Air Force has met disaster, which was the premonition of its air chief. Don't forget, when Asim Munir, who had gone to Kazakhstan for a paid holiday, had to rush back, he met his Navy and the air chiefs. And they had told him, Maradiya Munir, we are not ready. The air chief said, half my F-16s are down because they are being upgraded. 50% of the radars on my JF-17s don't work. And I'm in serious problems. The Navy chief told him, out of my 8 submarines, because the Indian Navy flotilla, the aircraft carrier, Vikrant aircraft carrier battle group is heading towards Karachi. I need my submarines to tackle them. Out of my 8 submarines, I have just 2. The Pakistani General Chief of the General Staff, ruefully informed Maulana Mullah, Mad Mullah Munir, that we have 7 to 10 days of ammunition. We had war wastage rate. Out of that, $320 million worth of ammunition. The Americans forced us to sell to Ukraine artillery, 155 millimeter ammunition, which is the key war winning factor. Aviation turbine fuel, we have 5 days reserves. And if the Indian Navy blockades, we are done for, we are kaput, we are hors de combat. That was the state of affairs, grim state of affairs. And yet, this idiot, this whiskey guzzling mullah, he decided to escalate the conflict both in the horizontal and vertical domains, right? India had, like I told you, hit only terror targets. Then in retaliation, we also escalated to military targets. But we noticed a curious kind of a restraint when the foreign ministry was giving its briefing, that they were the de-escalation was the primary, concern. that seemed to be expressed. De-escalation, de-escalation. We even heard self-contradictory terms like we are escalating in a non-escalatory fashion. I mean, those are contradiction in terms. I mean, be that as it may, India hit back hard. So hard that Pakistan was left dazed and spinning. Pakistan went crying to the United States, to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, and wherever else it could go for succor, and of course China, its nanny. It went crying to the United States, to Donald Trump. And initially the Americans were cool. They said, we are hands off. This is not our war. You started it. You suffer it. That was the very brusque American response. But then, when we hit them really hard, and thereby hangs a tale. Where did they get hurt so badly that they went crying to the United States? Two places. Sargodha, Jacobabad. Near Sargodha are the Kinnar hills, and near Jacobabad are the Chagai hills. I'm not sure if we were very sure. We don't know. We don't know at all. It will all come out sometimes when somebody writes the history a couple of decades later. But the simple fact is, when we hit, Sargodha, and we hit the Chagai, the Kirana Hills targets, the Kirana Hills target, there was a massive explosion, massive as can be. It registered 4.5 on the Richter scale, almost a mild earthquake. There was alarm all over, especially in the United States and all others who were monitoring this conflict. Had somebody gone nuclear? And then it turned out that we had unwittingly, there are about 7 tunnels in the Kinari Hills where Pakistan has stored its nuclear warheads. And quite obviously, because F-16s are stationed at Sargodha, they are the primary vectors for delivery of nuclear weapons in Pakistan. So when that went off, that big bang took place, people were wondering what exactly was it, and the United States straight away flew an aircraft to monitor the radioactivity levels in that area. They flew over the Chagai Hills, they flew over, 4 o'clock was the hit by our BrahMos cruise missiles. BrahMos cruise missiles. Whether air-launched, ground-launched, we don't know. Possibly not sea-launched, but definitely either air-launched or ground-launched. But those missiles hit within a meter of the target, and out of the 7 of those tunnels, about 5 at least have caved in, and those bombs went and exploded. Now, where a nuclear warhead is kept. A nuclear warhead, it has 2 masses of uranium, 10 to 12 kg of uranium, depending upon the kilotonnage of the bomb. So it is in 2 separate blocks. And it is surrounded by a ring of explosives, and that to activate the bomb, you have to fire off those conventional explosives, which cause them to implode inwards and fuse the 2 uranium components together to attain critical mass, and then it goes bang, pop goes the weasel. Now, in this case, if they are hit from outside, it's not that very calculated explosive to make the 2 come together, the uranium batches, right? Then there is a radiological explosion. There is a cook-off. So that leaves a massive flame, uranium going up, and uranium going up, massive bloody flame and radioactivity. Nobody can enter those 5 tunnels now for the next 1,000 years almost. There's so much radioactivity in that narrow space. And a similar thing happened in Sargodha. So 4 o'clock we hit, and 5 o'clock the American Air Force plane flew over these Chagai Hills and the Kirana Hills in Sargodha, and landed up at Islamabad. Some YouTube channels are even claiming their number. Of course, in the DGMO's briefing, they disowned any knowledge of any such strike or where the nukes are hidden. Quite obviously, that is the right professional response. Even if they had done it, they would not talk about it, and they are saying we didn't do it. So we'll have to wait and watch. But there are a lot of other indications coming from the highest level, from the Raksha Mantri himself, and even the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, who was extolling the BrahMos cruise missiles and the wonders they had achieved in actual battle scenario. So this spooked the Pakistanis. Like I said, they went crying to Donald Trump, they went crying all over, begging them to stop, and even J.D. Vance was worried, and he also rung up our Prime Minister. And then, of course, Marco Rubio spoke to our Foreign Minister and said, I think this is getting too hot to handle, so kindly have a ceasefire, etc., etc. So he said, then talk to Pakistan. So he spoke to General Asim Munir, Marco Rubio. And he said, how do I do it? What do I do? He said, ask your DGMO to speak to the Indian DGMO. So we got a call from the Pakistani DGMO to the Indian DGMO. First call wasn't taken. Around 15:30 they both interacted. 1:30 they interacted first, and then again at 15:30. The Pakistani DGMO was whining for a ceasefire. He said, I'll have to ask my government and I'll come back. So next call he came back and said, okay, we have agreed to give you the off-ramp, providing you behave. Right? Providing you behave. And then, of course, the government of India, the External Affairs Ministry, the Foreign Secretary announced the ceasefire around 5:30, I think it was, on the 10th of May. And within half an hour, just look at this, within half an hour, Pakistan decided to strike with its drones. Again, from Avantipura, 3-4 targets in J&K and all along in Punjab and in Jaisalmer and Rajasthan. On that 2,000 kilometer front, it decided to attack India after agreeing to a ceasefire. Now look, had it been on the LC, there are hothead commanders, there are drunk commanders in Pakistan. Surprisingly, for an Islamic nation, they take a lot of whiskey and alcohol, you see, and sometimes the orders don't get through in time, etc., etc., or some staff officer forgets to pass them on, or some other hothead brigade commander deliberately does not let his subordinates know. I mean, things like that happen in the LC context, at least, So had it been just that, it would have been confined to the LC, to J&K. It was all along the Western theatre. That means it was a premeditated Pakistani strike, possibly calculated that the Indians would be celebrating that the ceasefire was on, because they seem to be so desperate, the civilian establishment, bureaucracy, for a off-ramp, worried about the economy, this, that, and the rest of it. We are doing so well. We don't want to miff it, etc. So they thought that we would be caught by surprise. We were not, because we know the Pakistani army well enough. They are liars. They lie through their teeth. They are most untrustworthy. So we hit back. And next day there was outrage in India. There was outrage. People were saying that, have we let them off the hook too soon? We are all guilty, because I think as Indians we are kind-hearted, including me. When I saw that Pakistani major, who's now a member of the Pakistani Senate, and he was actually weeping, physically weeping, even I felt a bit of pity, twinge of pity, of course, but that's what they are. There was Air Marshal Noor Khan saying that we've been had. Please, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We can't stop them. And don't give me this bravado. The Indian army, he said, is 16 lakh strong. So where do we go from here? there is news that the chief of general staff in Pakistan, and he is Lieutenant General Zaheer Mirza. He is next in line to replace Asif Munir if and when he retires in his given time frame of October this year, right? He was seen in communication with the Corps Commander at Multan, Lieutenant General Hassan Hayat, then the Corps Commander at Lahore, General Ayman Safdar, and the Corps Commander at Rawalpindi, Lieutenant General Saeed Raza. Now, most of the Corps Commanders are very het up, very angry because they were not consulted, and Pakistan were dragged into a war by Asim Munir for his personal extension. He's already gotten one bloody extension. But he wants to match the tenure of Ziaul Haq and Pervez Musharraf, 11 saal. Of course, you must remember that Ziaul Haq was assassinated and Pervez Musharraf was exiled. He's lucky that he wasn't hung. You see, but he wants to hang on for 11 years and they are pretty angry. So will there be a coup in Pakistan? I am not sure. But we'll have to wait and watch this space very carefully.